My name is Hannah. When I turned 18, my mother canceled my birthday because my brother wasn't in the mood. Years later, I learned that was just the beginning of what she took from me. If you've lived through something similar, share your story in the comments. My 18th birthday started with balloons already sagging against the floor and a cake nobody had touched. My phone kept buzzing on the dresser, names lighting up the screen, people asking what time to come over. Before I answered any of them, my mother leaned into the doorway. "Your brother isn't in the mood," Linda said. "Don't be selfish." She said it the way people say the weather report. Then she walked down the hall, voice softening immediately. "It's okay, sweetheart," she told Ethan. "You don't have to force yourself today." From his room came the sharp clicks of a game controller. No footsteps, no door opening. Standing there, I typed one message after another. "Sorry, tonight isn't happening." Something came up. Rain checks, promised without dates. Linda hovered until the last text went out, then nodded like a task had been completed. On the table sat a pile of birthday cards and a single envelope stuffed with cash. She picked it up, weighed it in her hand. "I'll hold on to this," she said. "You don't need it right now." The envelope disappeared into her purse before I could say anything. She pulled out a folded document instead, already creased from being handled. "I need a signature," she said. "School stuff. They're late on processing." The pen was pressed into my palm. The page was mostly text, the kind nobody reads before coffee. A line waited at the bottom. I signed. "Good," Linda said, too quickly. She smiled after, like she'd caught herself. "Name on paper matters more than cake anyway," she added, laughing once, short and awkward. My calendar app chimed. Event canceled. The words sat there in neutral gray, like they belonged to someone else. Linda headed back toward the hall, calling encouragement into Ethan's room, already planning lunch. I stayed where I was, scooping deflated balloons into a trash bag. Latex stuck to my fingers. The cake went into the fridge, untouched, frosting smearing the box. Another vibration came from the phone. This time, it wasn't a friend. "FAFSA document received." That was the entire message. No explanation, no warning, just confirmation. The trash bag slipped from my hand. I read the email again, slower, checking the sender, the timestamp, the spelling of my name. Everything looked correct. Behind me, Linda's voice rose, sharp now. "Don't make this harder than it is." The fridge door stood open. Cold air spilled out across the floor, while the phone kept buzzing, the email still glowing on the screen. Footsteps crossed the hallway, a cabinet shut, silverware rattled. Linda asked if Ethan wanted soup or something easy. The game sounds never stopped. My phone filled up before noon. Not friends this time. Aunts, cousins, people who usually sent holiday cards, and nothing else. Each message landed the same way. "Your mom said you got upset over a small change." "Birthdays get postponed. Families don't fall apart over cake." "You've always been sensitive." Linda didn't deny canceling the party. She just renamed it. In her version, the problem wasn't Ethan's mood. It was mine. By the time I put the phone face down, the story had already settled. I was dramatic. She was patient. Work didn't offer much space either. I asked to leave early, said there were school documents I had to straighten out. My manager glanced at the clock, then at the spreadsheet on his screen. "We value stability here," he said. "Just keep me posted." He said it kindly, which somehow made it worse. The afternoon passed with emails stacking up and the sense that everyone was watching for cracks. When the day finally ended, an apartment showing waited across town. The place was small and within budget. The application process took 10 minutes. The rejection came faster. "Pending credit review," the agent said, already reaching for the next folder. "It happens." Outside, I checked my credit app, refreshed twice, then closed it without reading further. Linda called while I was still standing there. "She's spiraling," she told someone, not bothering to lower her voice. I don't know how to help her anymore. "Ethan's really trying." That sentence kept coming back. Ethan's trying, as if effort erased outcomes, as if trying paid bills. Rosa Alvarez didn't ask for a story. She just slid a spare key across the table and told me where the towels were. "You can stay for now," she said. "No rush." Her place sat above a bakery, close enough to work that I could walk. That mattered. After dinner, she leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Why is your name on accounts you don't control?" It's a simple question. I didn't answer right away. Rosa waited. "Keep everything," she said when I finally shrugged. "Screenshots, emails, envelopes. Don't argue, collect." That night, I pulled up my FAFSA account. The login worked. The documents loaded. On the second page, my signature appeared again, clean and familiar, attached to a loan supplement I didn't remember filling out. The date sat at the top, my birthday. The page didn't blink or hesitate. It just existed. I downloaded everything, saved copies, forwarded them to an email Rosa told me to create for backups. Each click felt mechanical, like following steps from a list. Another message slid in while the files transferred. "We're reviewing your information." The subject line came from a credit bureau. No punctuation, no tone, just a statement. The timing felt almost polite. At work the next morning, a colleague asked if everything was okay at home. Someone else suggested I take a day off. The concern carried an edge, like curiosity dressed as kindness. Linda had been busy. By lunch, a letter showed up in my inbox from a bank I didn't use. The language was formal, careful. "Please contact our fraud department within 5 business days." The email log came from an old account Linda had helped set up years earlier. I hadn't touched it in a long time. The password still worked. Messages loaded slowly, stretching back through years of coupons, school notices, and forwarded chain emails. Then one subject line stood out: Startup Capital Inquiry. The sender wasn't a bank I recognized. The attachment preview showed a scan of my driver's license, my name, my photo, my address from before I moved out. Below it, Linda had written a short note. "Using my daughter's info as discussed. She's on board." There was no reply from me because there had never been a discussion. The date on the message sat 3 months before my birthday. I forwarded the email to the backup address Rosa told me to use and closed the laptop. The folded paper from my birthday came back to mind. I pulled it from my bag and laid it flat on the table. This time, the words made sense. Power of attorney, limited scope, financial matters only. The date at the bottom matched the signature in the FAFSA file. The pen hadn't been a favor. It had been permission. My phone rang before I finished reading. Linda's name lit up the screen. "Hannah," she said, breathless, "why are banks calling me?" The tone stayed soft for the first minute. Confusion, concern. Then it shifted. "If you tell them anything," she said, "we lose the house." The word "we" carried weight she hadn't earned. Another call came through before I answered. An aunt this time. "Your mother is scared," she said. "You don't want this on your conscience." The phrase family came up 3 times, responsibility twice, my name once. At the bank, the waiting area was crowded. A clerk handed over a form and pointed to a chair. The complaint process moved in stages. Verbal report first, documentation later. "Fraud within families happens," the teller said, "more than people think." The words sounded practiced. I explained what I could, handed over copies, tried to keep it short. The teller nodded, typed notes, then looked up. Family fraud is still fraud. No judgment, no sympathy. Just a sentence that closed the door on arguments I hadn't made. Linda called again before I reached the parking lot. "You're misunderstanding," she said. "This was to help Ethan. You know how hard it's been for him." The startup name came up. Then the house. Then silence stretched long enough that the line crackled. "I did this for you, too," she added. "Someday you'll understand." A text followed from a cousin. "Think carefully before you do something you can't undo." At work, access to one of my accounts stalled. Payroll flagged an issue and asked me to check with the bank. By the time lunch rolled around, another email arrived. Temporary restriction applied, pending investigation. I went back to the branch. The same teller wasn't there. A manager listened this time, hands folded, eyes fixed on the desk while details stacked up. "This will take time," he said. "We need to pause activity while we sort it out." Pause sounded harmless. It wasn't. Cards stopped working that evening, one by one. The app updated without ceremony. Access limited. Funds unavailable. Linda's last message came through while I stood at the register of a grocery store, watching the cashier wait. "Please," she wrote, "just tell them it was a misunderstanding." The receipt printer chirped. The transaction failed. The cashier tried again. "Sometimes the system lags," she said. It didn't. The phone buzzed with another bank notification. Investigation opened. Accounts frozen. The words stacked neatly, one under another. I stepped aside to let the next customer through, the cartwheel squeaking as it passed. Outside, the air felt heavier than it should have. Another call came in, this one from the bank. "We've placed a temporary hold on all accounts connected to your name," the voice said. "You'll hear from us once the review progresses." The first notice came through payroll, a bland subject line, a short paragraph, a phone number at the bottom. "Due to an external review, a portion of your wages will be held temporarily." No apology, no timeline, just procedure. The credit freeze followed before lunch. Accounts already restricted dropped another level. The app refreshed and displayed fewer options, like doors quietly removed from a hallway. Linda, meanwhile, still had the folder. Birth certificate copies, old statements, the originals she'd insisted on keeping safe. Her access disappeared. Mine didn't improve. The next move landed harder. A certified letter arrived at Rosa's place with my name spelled correctly and everything else wrong. Linda had filed a sworn statement claiming I had authorized all financial actions. Attached were copies of my signature and a notarized acknowledgement. The notary's name meant nothing to me. The date did. It matched my 18th birthday. The same morning with the sagging balloons. The same hour I'd signed the paper without reading. According to the stamp, the acknowledgement was finalized while cake sat untouched in the fridge and Ethan's game sounds filled the hallway. Rosa read the page once, then set it down. "This isn't something I can fix," she said, "but you can stop reacting to it. Start choosing where the truth lands." Linda didn't wait for the investigation to run its course. She went public in the ways that mattered. Family group chats, church acquaintances, anyone with a reason to listen. "She's confused," Linda told them. "She's always been emotional. I'm just trying to keep a roof over our heads." Someone forwarded me a message meant for her. "We're praying she comes to her senses." At work, the tone shifted again. HR asked for documentation. Another meeting was scheduled. The word review came up twice, followed by policy. Stability didn't. Linda called that night. No preamble. "They're coming after the house," she said. "You did this." Her voice cracked in the right places. She cried without sobbing, like she knew when to pause. "All I need is for you to tell them it was a misunderstanding," she said. "Just that. After that, we can talk." The silence on my end stretched long enough that she filled it. "You're not heartless," she added. "You wouldn't let us lose everything." Us meant her. Ethan stayed unmentioned. The house carried more weight than either of us. Another call came through while she was still talking. The bank this time. The investigation had escalated. A lien review was underway. The hold would remain. Linda's voice sharpened. "If you don't help," she said, "I don't know what will happen." The sentence hung there, unfinished, like a threat she didn't want to name. Rosa watched from the kitchen table as I set the phone down without answering. "She's not asking," Rosa said. "She's testing." The next morning brought confirmation. A formal notice outlined potential foreclosure if liabilities weren't resolved. The house wasn't collateral by accident. It had always been the leverage. Linda showed up unannounced at Rosa's door that afternoon. Her eyes were red. Her hands shook just enough to be noticed. "I raised you," she said. "This is how you repay me?" Rosa stepped between us. "She's not speaking to you right now," she said. "You can leave." Linda turned back once. "You think you're smarter than this," she said. "You're not." The door closed. The hallway stayed empty. Rosa locked it and slid the bolt into place. Later, another email arrived from the bank. Additional documentation requested. A case number appeared in bold at the top. It looked official, permanent, the kind of thing that followed people. Linda called again. This time, she didn't cry. "They're saying you set me up," she said. "Tell them you signed everything. Tell them you agreed." The request was clear now. Not a misunderstanding, a lie. No answer went back. The call ended on its own. That night, Rosa cleared a corner of the table and handed over a flash drive. "Everything goes here," she said. "Dates, messages, files. Nothing gets argued." Money stopped behaving like money. It turned into permissions and warnings. Cards worked sometimes, then didn't. Payroll emails arrived with careful wording about compliance and monitoring. A meeting appeared on my calendar labeled Review. No one explained what would happen if the review went badly. Family was no longer an option. Calls went unanswered. Messages stayed unread. The house had become a bargaining chip I wasn't allowed to touch unless I agreed to lie for it. Most nights ended at Rosa's kitchen table with documents spread out in neat stacks. Statements, emails, screenshots. The pattern was obvious once everything sat in one place. Sign here. Trust this. Let me handle it. I had done it without resistance for years. There were moments that kept resurfacing. A pen placed in my hand. A page folded just enough to hide the header. Linda's voice, calm and certain. "You're stronger than he is. You can handle it. This helps everyone." Strength had always been the explanation. Not permission, not consent. Strength. It justified everything that landed on my shoulders and never left. Another detail clicked into place as the files grew. Linda never gave me originals, not once. Birth certificate copies stayed in her folder. Statements arrived opened. Documents came back already signed in places that weren't mine. Rosa noticed the pause. "You seeing it?" she asked. The answer didn't need words. She pushed a card across the table with a name and a number. "Free legal clinic," she said. "They won't fix it. They'll tell you what it means." The attorney listened without interrupting. He didn't ask why I trusted my mother. He asked for dates, addresses, devices used to log in. One loan stood out, small at first, rolled over later, always paid on time until it wasn't. The login records showed access from one location, the same IP address, Linda's house. "That matters," he said. "Intent matters. Patterns matter." The word fraud came up again. So did liability. The attorney slid a form across the desk and pointed to a paragraph near the bottom. "If you sign this," he said, "the bank proceeds formally. That includes potential criminal consequences for whoever submitted false information." There it was, the line everyone had danced around. Consequences, not misunderstandings, not family conflict. Outcomes that couldn't be undone with apologies. Rosa waited outside. She didn't ask what was said. She just watched me hold the paper longer than necessary. "This isn't about being right," she said when we sat back down. "It's about where facts go." Linda called while the pen rested against the page. Her voice sounded tired now, worn down instead of sharp. "They told me you're cooperating," she said. "You don't have to. We can fix this ourselves." Fix meant erase. Fix meant silence. "I kept you safe," she added. "I made decisions for you when you couldn't." The phrase landed wrong this time, not because it was new, but because it finally matched the evidence. Decisions for me, without me. The bank's deadline loomed in the corner of the screen. 48 hours left. Another reminder pinged, polite as ever. Rosa didn't interrupt. She gathered the stacks into a folder, squared the edges, then slid it closer. "No one's asking you to burn anything down," she said. "You're just choosing not to hold it up." The pen moved. My name filled the line the way it always had, steady and legible. The difference sat in what followed. Authorization granted. Investigation initiated. The email confirmation arrived before we left the office. Your request has been received. An investigator will contact you shortly. Linda's message came through seconds later. What did you do? There was no reply. The form had already been scanned, uploaded, time-stamped. The walk back to Rosa's place felt longer than usual. Traffic moved. People passed with bags and phones and conversations that had nothing to do with case numbers or signatures. The world kept functioning without waiting for permission. At the table, the folder stayed open. A new section appeared labeled Evidence. Files dropped in one by one. Each click made space for the next. The phone vibrated again. Unknown number this time. The investigator introducing himself. Scheduling the call. Explaining next steps. I agreed to the time. The investigator didn't raise his voice. He didn't soften it either. He just laid things out in order, like numbers on a page. The activity predates your brother's startup, he said, by several years. He slid a summary across the table. Dates, amounts, account numbers. The pattern was clean once it was visible. Credit opened under my name, paid down just enough to stay alive, rolled into something else, repeated. This wasn't short-term, he said. It was maintenance. Maintenance of the house. The payments lined up with mortgage deadlines, property tax notices, insurance renewals. Every spike in balance matched a moment the house might have slipped. Ethan's name appeared, but only at the edges, a justification, a story that made sense to other people. It was easier to say it was for him, the investigator added. People accept that. FAFSA wasn't the beginning. It was the last clean option left when older credit lines tightened. The power of attorney hadn't expired the way I assumed. It had been quietly renewed, filed through a service I'd never heard of, using the same notary who had stamped my birthday document. Linda hadn't improvised. She'd maintained. The response came fast. Linda filed a counterclaim accusing me of retaliation. The language was polished. She said I'd known, that I'd benefited, that this was revenge for a canceled birthday and long-standing resentment. A cousin who had offered to confirm I didn't live at home anymore withdrew their statement. I can't get involved, she said. I have my own family. The pressure shifted. A debt tied to my name was flagged for expedited review. The balance jumped overnight. Interest recalculated. Fees stacked. The investigator called within the hour. This puts you at risk, he said. We need to establish intent clearly. Linda called right after. They're telling me you're trying to ruin me, she said. Is that what this is? The question wasn't real. It was bait. You used my name, I said. I protected you, she replied. I kept a roof over your head. The house again. Always the house. At work, another meeting appeared on my calendar. This one included legal. HR sat in, quiet but present. They asked for updates. They asked about timelines. They asked if charges were possible. I don't know, I said. I'm cooperating. That answer didn't reassure anyone. Rosa listened that night without interrupting. She sorted mail while I talked, stacking envelopes by size. She's not reacting, Rosa said when I finished. She's advancing. The investigator confirmed it the next morning. She's building a narrative where you're complicit, he said. We need something definitive. 72 hours. That was the window. After that, the default assumption would harden. Another file arrived from the bank's system. Access logs tied to one of the earliest loans. The IP address resolved again to Linda's house. The device fingerprint matched a desktop that hadn't existed in my life since I moved out. The problem wasn't lack of evidence. It was placement. What counted? What connected? Linda's lawyer sent a letter that afternoon. It warned against defamation. It urged a family resolution. It included a copy of my signature, enlarged, bolded, highlighted like a victory. A message followed from an aunt. Why are you doing this now? The question assumed timing mattered more than truth. That night, a charge attempted to process against one of the frozen accounts. It failed, but the attempt was logged. The investigator called again. "This is not accidental," he said. "She's forcing urgency." Linda called after midnight. "They're telling me I could lose everything," she said. "Fix this." The word landed differently now. Fix meant shift blame. Fix meant move the weight back where it had always been. "I need you to tell them you knew," she added. "Just say you agreed." No answer came back. 72 hours ticked forward. Another notice arrived. Another balance recalculated. The system kept doing what systems do. Rosa handed over a printed map of IP locations, lines drawn between dates and addresses. "Everything points one way," she said. "You just have to put it in the right hands." The investigator emailed again. Subject line short. "Status update requested." The cursor blinked in the evidence folder, waiting. Files were already there, organized, labeled, time-stamped. What was missing sat just out of reach, something that tied intent to action beyond doubt. The phone buzzed. Linda's name again. Another call declined. 72 hours hadn't passed yet, but they were moving. The investigator's last message stayed open on the screen. "Without decisive proof, responsibility may be shared." The conference room was already set when I arrived. A long table, water pitchers, name placards placed with care. The bank's fraud investigator sat near the center, a legal counsel to his right, a compliance officer on the other side. Linda arrived last, flanked by her attorney, expression tight but composed. No one asked for small talk. The investigator started. "We're here to clarify outstanding discrepancies," he said. "All materials submitted today become part of the official record." Linda nodded once, like she agreed with the process. Her lawyer folded his hands. I slid a folder forward, the same one that had grown heavier each day. "Let's begin," the investigator said. The first document went up on the screen. Access logs, dates, IP addresses. The house address appeared again and again. Linda leaned forward. "This is a misunderstanding," she said. "My daughter knew about these accounts." Her lawyer added something about shared finances and family trust. The investigator didn't respond yet. He clicked to the next file. "This loan," he said, "was accessed from the same device on 12 occasions. Each from the same location," Linda shook her head. "That was Ethan," she said. "He handled the computer stuff. He needed help." The excuse landed flat. It always had. I slid the next document across the table, the notary record, the date circled in red. "That signature was notarized on my 18th birthday," I said. Linda looked away. "That doesn't prove intent," her lawyer said. "She signed." The investigator held up a hand. He turned to me. "You mentioned a call," he said. "Do you have it?" The phone was already connected. One tap. The room filled with Linda's voice, clear and unmistakable. "If you tell them anything, we lose the house. I need you to say you agreed. No shouting, no anger, just instruction." The recording ended. Silence took its place. Linda spoke first. "You recorded me?" she asked. Her lawyer leaned back, color draining from his face. The investigator didn't look at either of them. "This clears up the timeline," he said. He typed something into his laptop. The compliance officer checked her screen. A quiet exchange passed between them, all professional and restrained. The system updated while we sat there. A notification popped up on the monitor. Primary liability reassigned. Linda's attorney cleared his throat. "We'll need time to review," the investigator interrupted him. "Asset controls are being applied," he said, "effective immediately." Linda's phone rang. She answered without thinking. "Hello?" Her expression shifted as she listened. The color left her face completely this time. "What do you mean frozen?" she said. "There must be a mistake." The call cut off. She stared at the screen, then tried again. No signal. The investigator gathered his papers. "This meeting is concluded," he said. "You'll receive formal notice by end of day." Linda stood abruptly. "You can't do this," she said. "She's my daughter." No one responded. The word daughter didn't carry weight in this room. As we filed out, another alert chimed from the bank system, audible but neutral. Asset hold confirmed. Linda's lawyer stayed behind, already dialing a number. She didn't look back at me. Her focus stayed on the phone, on whatever could still be salvaged. In the hallway, the investigator stopped long enough to nod. "You did the right thing bringing this forward," he said. "These cases don't usually end cleanly." The elevator doors opened. Linda stepped in, still trying to get a call through. The doors slid shut before she could say anything else. My phone buzzed once more. A final message from the bank confirmed the action in careful language, time-stamped and complete. Proceedings initiated. The notice arrived first, not from Linda but from the county. A foreclosure filing, formal and unemotional. Cross-collateralization listed as the cause. The house wasn't mentioned by name, just parcel numbers and dates. A timeline that ended where the investigation had begun. Family accounts followed. Frozen. Not flagged, not paused. Closed. Ethan's name appeared in a separate document attached to the bank's update, outlining next steps for individual liability. No cushioning language this time, just instructions and consequences. Linda called 3 times that week. The first voicemail was short. "We need to talk." The second came later that night. "Please, just not like this." The third arrived after midnight, voice hoarse, asking for time, for space, for something undefined. None of them were returned. A cousin reached out instead, someone neutral enough to carry messages without choosing sides. "She says she didn't mean for it to go this far," she said. "I know you're hurt. I just want you to know there's no anger on your end, right?" "There isn't," I said, "but there's distance." That seemed to satisfy her. The call ended without promises. Work continued. The review concluded. Access restored in stages. The routine returned with small adjustments, none of them dramatic. The world didn't pause to acknowledge the shift. It just adjusted its records and moved on. One evening after a late shift, the laptop came back out. Not for documents this time, just an email. Linda's address still sat in the contacts list. It hadn't been touched since the meeting. The subject line was typed carefully. 18th birthday invoice, 7 years overdue. No greeting, no explanation. The attachment loaded first. A photo pulled from an old phone backup. The bedroom from that morning. Balloons collapsed against the floor, streamers drooping. The cake box still sealed. Below it, a single line. "You told me he mattered more. I finally listened." Nothing else followed. No signature, no questions. The send button waited. Then it didn't. Message delivered successfully. The confirmation arrived instantly, clean and polite. The system didn't care about context. It only cared that the message went where it was told. The contact list came next. Linda's name disappeared with one tap. Ethan's followed. A few extended relatives stayed. Others didn't. The screen adjusted without comment. Rosa knocked on the door before heading out for her shift. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Wrapped up," I said. She nodded once, satisfied. No follow-up. The phone went face down on the table. The night shift started in an hour. Uniform ready, keys where they belonged. The routine held. Another email came through while tying my shoes. An automated notice from the bank, closing the last open thread. Case resolved. The wording was final. No appeals listed, no next steps suggested. Outside, traffic moved the way it always did. People crossed the street with groceries, headphones in, conversations unfinished. None of it paused for loss or correction. The phone stayed where it was, face down, silent. Work called. The shift needed coverage. The answer went out without delay. On my way. The door locked behind me. The hallway lights flickered, then steadied. Somewhere else, paperwork continued to move. Accounts stayed closed. Keys changed hands. At the end of the block, the bus arrived on time. The doors opened. The day kept going, orderly and indifferent, while the invoice sat, delivered, unpaid, and complete. The message archived, the number removed, and the work waiting exactly where I'd left it.